What I'm about to teach you will be one of the biggest game changers of your playing, and it will give you the most instant results. G'day shredders! After almost 20 years as a guitar teacher, you begin to notice patterns. And a pattern that I've noticed in 99% of learning guitarists is that they push too hard. And if you're eager to learn how to shred, then there's one thing you can do that will instantly unleash your fretting hand agility. Alright, so we're going to start by playing a phrase. Now, you can take any phrase or solo or lick or riff you like. You don't have to use the one that we're going to use today. But in case you want to play along, here's what I'm going to be playing. Alright, so that is the phrase we're going to use. So we're just going to go index on a down, up on the ring finger, down on the middle finger, up on the ring finger. And that's it. We're just going to do that 3 times and then button it up with the tonic at the end. So it's a G minor pedal tone lick. Now let's step back a moment and just play the first note. Now we're going to keep playing that note and gradually release the pressure until the note is dead. And now gradually push the note back on as you keep strumming, and stop when it starts to bite. You hear that? Alright, now as you get to that bite point, how much pressure are you using to play that note? Aha! See how little pressure you need to play a note. You actually don't need that much. Now by default, you're probably going and really pushing down hard before. But now hopefully you're realizing that you don't need to push very hard at all. But it does require a little bit of dialing in, a bit of calibration. I think of it like a pendulum. On one side we have pushing too hard, and one side we have not pushing enough. And you just want to kind of let it swing until it settles in that neat little spot where the note is just ringing. Now you might be sitting there shaking your head saying, well, I'm going to have to sit there and relearn every single riff and solo I've played one note at a time, finding the pressure point. The good news is, no, you won't at all. I've got a hack for that, and this is called the pressure point exercise. And this is a part of my brand new course, Effortless Shred. It goes deep into the mindset of not only how to play the guitar, but also how to learn your favorite riffs and licks. That's part 1 of the course. And then in part 2, I'm going to teach you all the basic shred techniques from scratch. So things like alternate picking, economy picking, sweep picking, tapping, legato, and I'm going to use my trademark style of drill video to help you get it up to speed. So that's Effortless Shred. Check it out in the link below. All right, so back to our lick. Now, as I said, instead of going through every single note and finding the pressure point manually, which you are most welcome to do, there is a quicker way to get there. And that is playing the whole thing with dead notes like this. Now, it doesn't sound very impressive, does it? But you should think of this like a primer or an undercoat. It's just a process that happens before the main process to make it work smoother. Now you'll probably find doing this quite difficult. Personally, I love it as an exercise because it forces you to not push too hard. There's nowhere to hide. You can't play this while pushing too hard. It kind of feels like you're walking in slow motion and trying to keep perfect balance. Now, as you play that, you might notice some notes pop through like this. Now that one note popping through is that finger telling you that it's still pushing down too hard. And this will definitely happen depending on what you're playing. It might be when you do this with a bar chord, which you can do. If you have a bar chord progression you like, try and play it all with the pressure point exercise. And what you'll notice is some notes will probably pop through. The most common one is the middle finger on the bar chord. And that's because this finger thinks it needs to push down really hard, but it actually doesn't. It needs to push down really lightly. And I think it's because the index finger does have to push down hard. The other fingers think they need to as well. And so that's how you get. But here's the good news. If you play this with the correct pressure, it's impossible to bend the strings. So rather than trying to just fix the bendiness of your chords, all you need to do is play them with the correct amount of pressure. and then the bends will just go away. That's one thing I love about this approach. Problems just seem to go away on their own. It's kind of like when you eat healthy and your back just gets better, and any other health problems can often just go away. This is eating healthy on the guitar. Now back to the pedal tone lick. If we keep playing it with the pressure point exercise, and you're confident that you're not pushing down too hard and that your fingers are nice and relaxed, then you can start pushing down a little bit, like 1%. You really don't need to play very hard to get these notes to come out. Now, I bet some of you are thinking right now, yeah, but you're using light strings on a scalloped fretboard, blah, blah, blah. You've got low action. I'm using a bass guitar with a string as thick as a train. Okay, yes, I get it. If you're using a guitar with heavier strings and high action, it's harder. But the principle still rings true. There is only a minimum amount of pressure needed to get the note to ring out. And even on your bass guitar or your acoustic guitar or whatever you're playing, I would still bet a large amount of money that you are pushing down harder than you need to. And if you can learn to push down the minimum necessary amount on any instrument, then you're going to be able to play that instrument with more ease and less clumsiness. This applies to any musical instrument, by the way. Whether it's drums or piano, you can apply this concept universally. Now, the most powerful part of this exercise is that it forces your fingers to move with coordination, and it forces you to be aware of that coordination. Now, when you're playing hard like this, you can get away with pounding out the notes, especially when you play it slow, and you can trick yourself into thinking that you're playing it perfectly, and that there's nothing you can do to improve this hand. But by playing it with the pressure point exercise, you're forced to be very sensitive about how much energy you're putting in. So it's all about learning to walk that fine line along the middle. Now, the best news about this concept is that as soon as you start doing a little bit of it, it will spread through your playing like a drop of WD-40. You just put a little drop of this in there, and then it will train you to move lightly and with more coordination. So when I'm struggling with a new riff or something that I find extra difficult, I run it through the pressure point exercise. And that forces me to be much more economical with how my fingers are moving. It also forces you to slow down as well, although you can attempt it fast if you like. And in fact, if you attempt it fast, you'll notice notes will start popping through, because the faster you play, the harder it is to moderate your pressure. Just like the higher you sing, the harder it is to not yell. So as you play faster and faster, I recommend you go lighter and lighter. So your playing will become so much more coordinated if you just do a little bit of this. Take any riff or song or chord progression you like and just spend 5 minutes doing that, and then go back to playing it normally and see what you notice. Every time I do that process, I find that whatever I'm working on feels like it's been flossed, and it's had all the gunk taken out of it, and it's been rinsed, and it's smooth and flowing and effortless. But all this talk of playing with Zen-like effortlessness is probably off-putting to some of you, especially those of you who want to play kind of really macho guitar like. But the great news is it doesn't affect that side of your guitar playing. You'll still be able to play with the same intensity and fury that you did before. It's just that when you're doing those more agile and speedy passages, you'll be able to do them with more ease. I think of that kind of passionate playing as like the fire knob. And when you're doing a big bend or you're vibrating a note, then you want to have the fire knob turned all the way up. You want a lot of energy going in through the fretting hand. And you really do need a lot of energy to bend. So the focus of the pressure point exercise is not on reducing those things, it's on reducing the runs. That way you can do your big bend with full energy and fire, but then dial it back for the run. So right there, I started with the fire knob all the way up, and then I turned it all the way down so that I could complete the run without the same tension. But if you try to play that run with the same tension all the way through, it'll look like this. And a good clue for this is the face. Does the face go and kind of clench? Then chances are you're pushing too hard. Take a chill pill. Try and play with the pressure point exercise and then come back to it. Re-adding intention is very easy, it's very intuitive, and it will probably happen to you naturally. It's learning to play without that excess tension that is the real trick. It's a lot like when you get into a manual car, or a stick shift as you call it over there in the US. When you're using that clutch pedal, you have to modulate the pressure to find the bite point. Now, while I'm sure many of you younger viewers have probably never driven a manual car before, anyone my age and over probably knows the feeling of maybe driving your mum's car or your friend's car, and you get in and you go to pull away, and one of two things happens. You either stall or you rev the life out of the engine. Either way will get you a laugh from your mates. Now, why that happened was your foot was calibrated to your car, not to their car. Now, the pressure point exercise is like that for every guitar. Every axe you play, the pressure point will be different, and so you might have to push down harder or softer. So you want to jump on that guitar and just calibrate it, have a play, and focus on playing light and finding the minimum necessary pressure and just starting from there. I actually do this during gigs. For my first few songs, especially if it's a song like this one, I'll start by calibrating the chord shape and see how lightly I can get away with playing it. I find this really helps to keep my hands agile during the gig as well. Because if you're like me and you play in a cover band where you're playing chord songs all night, you know what it's like to go on blaze after that. And you feel like you've got concrete boots on each of your fingers. Your fingers feel clunky and awkward. This exercise will really help to prevent that. So whenever I have a big important solo coming up, I try and start doing the pressure point exercise to remind myself that I can play lightly. Because over a 3-hour gig, your fingers will start to cramp up. And so to help uncramp them, the pressure point exercise works really well. It reminds them, hey, you don't need to play that loud. Now, there are some other things you could do to encourage effortless playing. One thing I recommend is to put really light strings on. I'm running 8 to 46 at the moment, but on my other guitars I run 8 to 38. And I run them in E-flat tuning like some kind of psycho. Learning to play with the pressure point with the gauge so low almost forces you to learn how to shred, because your fingers are going to be so coordinated they can play just about anything. Having a good tone helps as well. Playing with a clean tone can be a bit of a buzzkill, so I recommend having a nice juicy overdrive tone, especially if you're learning to shred. And you can actually get this very AmpliTube preset that I'm using today for free from my website. It's called Swedish Plexi. Now look, some guitarists can get away without playing effortlessly, and they consciously do the opposite, and that is absolutely fine. Like Jack White from the White Stripes is a great example of this. He plays with intensity and passion and rawness, and I think his playing is awesome. But that being said, I highly doubt he could sit down and out-shred someone like Paul Gilbert. Now conversely, Paul Gilbert is a great example of a player who still has that energy and fire in his playing while still having the effortless side. Alright shredders, so don't forget that you can apply this to any riff or piece of music. Please let me know in the comments if this was helpful. What did you think of this exercise? Was it the game changer that I promised? And let me know if there's anything else that you want me to teach you about the guitar. Now, those of you who have my Swedish Shred Secrets course will know that I've recently added 5 new master etudes to that course. So these are mini songs designed to be playgrounds for you to practice applying all of those yoga hand cream techniques that you've learned in the course. And if you don't have Swedish Shred Secrets, then check it out in the link below. Alright shredders, thank you for watching. Check out one of these other videos.